i.e. body, okay? And it will help to form glands. Now, the glands that are being referred to, what types of glands might we find in this covering of our body? Sweat. And how about oil? These are the types of glands that we would find it making, because those glands, okay, those glands have to make sure that their products can exit the body. So this epithelial tissue can kind of enfold and allow that to happen. Does that make sense? So we're going to see that it's making up the outside surface of the body, but also lining of the digestive, the respiratory, and urogenital systems. What that's telling me, this tissue is lining parts of the body that meet the outside world. Our respiratory system meets the outside world, for example. Digestive system meets the outside world, okay? We're going to find this in the heart and the blood vessels. Did you guys pick up on how she was talking about the aorta having that little bit of epithelial, okay? And then lining of body cavities, i.e. abdominal cavity, thoracic cavity, okay? Their structure, free, basal, and lateral surfaces. What does that mean? Okay, let's take the terms apart. One of the structures that you're going to see in this cell, in this category, okay? One of the cell structures you're going to see is something called cuboidal. What does that tell me about the shape of that cell?
Cube.
It's a cube. I'm now going to have cells that are shaped like this. They can have a free basal and lateral surfaces. Well, they can have a free surface altogether. What side is that referring to? Like, for example, basal, the bottom. This would be the base. How about lateral? To the sides.
Both of them?
Huh?
Both of them, or the one that's just farthest away?
Either way.
Okay.
Depending upon where it's going to be found in the body. And then it can have a surface that's completely free, not attached to anything. And that's usually going to be up here, to the top. Okay, is everybody with me? They're going to contain a basement membrane. What do you think of when you hear the term basement? Yes, I'm thinking under my house, okay? So if we think about this as the house, all right, there will be a membrane that it gets to attach to, and it's termed the basement membrane. They can have specialized cell contacts, meaning if I've got them side by side, okay, the way that they're going to connect can have some specialized structures. They are avascular. What does the term, or what does that little letter tell us when we hear it used, for example, avascular? Without blood flow. Because vascular is telling me vessels, which means blood flow. The A means without. These cells are avascular. What? How can I have a cell that is without a blood flow?
You need a lot of them.
We definitely need blood flow because it's how cells are going to get their nutrients, okay? It is how we're going to get rid of waste. It's how we're going to create new cells. It is how we are going to keep them reproducing, how they're going to grow, develop. But hold on. Let's think about this for a second. For example, in the skin, okay, what do you kind of know about the layers of the skin?
Kind of scratch the top one off.
All right, and that would be our,
What layer would it be? The corneum layer. There's 4 layers.
okay, and let's, if we look at the 3 layers, well, it's actually 2, but you have this layer down here that's trying to be represented by fat cells, okay? And this one is my hypodermis. Have you guys ever heard of that? Then we have a layer that is the dermis, and then we have an outer layer that is the epidermis. Now, cells located throughout here, cells located throughout here, but as we begin to get up here into these strata of the epidermis, those cells do not need a blood supply. Their blood supply was from other connections, meaning a connection to the basement membrane. Because if we think about this type of structure, the cells, if we're having a close connection to a blood supply and cells are being given rise to, and if I got new cells, the older cells are beginning to get pushed outward. And as we form the strata of that epidermis, as those older cells get pushed up, pushed up, pushed up, they don't have that connection to the blood supply, and they are able to create an environment perfect for our body, the skin. Because that outer layer sloughs off because it's dead skin cells, okay? But at the same time, as we're making our way to those outer layers, those cells are dying and they're filling up with keratin, which keeps us, believe it or not, waterproof. Like, for example, today, or earlier today, if I wasn't waterproof, when I was going out to my car in the rain, I would have poofed up. But because the structure that I get doesn't allow that to happen. So these cells, their source of the blood supply, most of the time comes from this adjacent tissue. These cells are very good at regeneration, meaning mitotic division, carrying out mitosis. The basement membrane that will be existing, it gets formed by secretions of not only the epithelial tissue, but what's underneath, which is termed connective tissue. And it's called connective because that's what it does. It connects stuff. So we'll have our cells of the epithelium. We'll have connective tissue be present. So therefore, that membrane gets to attach to some connective tissue. This connection helps cells migrate, whether that's during tissue repair, whether we're looking at formation of cells for the skin. In other areas of the body, when these cells are present, especially like for the kidneys, they can function in filtration. It's a very special situation, but we won't get into that, okay? Not all epithelium will have the basement membrane, but for the most part, it does. Especially when we see it being related to our epidermis, the skin. The function of this tissue: protect underlying structures. Our skin, because that's the largest one that this is going to make up, this tissue is going to make up, okay? And the fact that it makes up the linings of anything for our body that meets the outside world, okay? Protect underlying structures. For example, the lining in the mouth, the lining of the respiratory system, the lining of the digestive system. Our skin, okay, which is our first line of defense, that pretty much is protecting us in so many ways. The other part of this, the structure of the cells, all right? I mentioned cuboidal. We're going to have one that's squamous. Looks like a fried egg with a huge yellow yolk in it, the nucleus, okay? We're going to see columnar, looking like a column, because of their structure. They are very good at allowing passage of substances. For example, in the kidneys, where it's very rare in the body, but it's present in the kidneys, you find cuboidal. What is the job of the kidneys? Filter our wastes, stuff that we